Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Morning Coffee with Kevin. I'm your host, Kevin Peterson. Hey everybody, welcome back, and it is a beautiful day today. I am happy to be here, and I am sitting here having my Dutch Brothers cold coffee, and I am enjoying my morning. Wow, what an episode last week. I hope that I still have some listeners. I was not in a real good place last week, so it is what it is. And moving on, we're going to get into today's episode. I am in a little bit better mood this week than I was last week, and I'm just happy that we have some sunshine. And I can just enjoy my day, and that's really what's important right now. So, anyways, getting into today's episode, and I had mentioned in the last episode that I'm going to take next week off, and plans have changed just a little bit. And what's going to happen is we're actually going to take off the next 2 weeks. So today's episode is going to be a rerun of a previous podcast that I had done that was called Sound City Workshop. And we ran into some personal problems, and we just really weren't getting the listeners that we had hoped for, and it kind of put us in a bad situation. So we decided to cancel the show after only 3 episodes, and a lot of people never even heard that show. And the ones that did, I actually had some people contact me and say, hey, you took those shows down. I was wanting to go back and get some additional information from episode 2 or episode 3 or episode 1 or whatever it may have been. And so I thought, being that I'm going to take off the next 2 weeks, and I'm not taking this time off to be lazy, folks. I'm taking this time off because I am currently working on some brand new content for the podcast, and I'm really looking forward to bringing you this new content in the very near future. So we're going to do the rerun show today of the first 3 episodes of the Sound City Workshop podcast, and then next week we're just not going to do a show. There won't be any rerun show. There won't be any new show. We'll just go the following week without any programming. And then when we do come back, I will have an all-new episode for you. I don't want to spoil the surprise. I have some really interesting, fun stuff lined up that I'm working on right now that I am going to bring to you in the new show. So for today, like I said, we're just going to do a rerun of the first 3 and only episodes that we did of the Sound City Workshop podcast. I hope you enjoy those. The entire podcast will probably run, I don't know, maybe a little over an hour, I think, something like that. So it's going to be kind of a long podcast today, considering what our usual podcast is. But I will be back very soon with some all-new content, and I've got some really great stuff coming up, and I think you're going to enjoy it. Like I said, I don't want to spoil the surprise. The only thing I am going to say is that I am going to be bringing you some content that I had promised you a very long time ago, and it's finally going to happen, and we are going to have some really awesome new shows coming up in the very near future. So I look forward to that. Enjoy the show today, and I will see you in a couple weeks. Be good to yourselves. Be good to your neighbors. Love each other. Peace. You're listening to reruns of the Sound City Workshop on Morning Coffee with Kevin, and I'm your host, Kevin Peterson. Enjoy the show today. I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Welcome to the Sound City Workshop podcast. Oh, thank you. You're so kind. Thank you. Okay, enough horsing around. Anyways, welcome to the Sound City Workshop podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Peterson. And speaking of podcasting, I kind of want to start off this first episode of the Sound City Workshop talking about something that you will probably not hear me talk about again on this show. And this is for the listeners who have followed me and listened to me, and even for the listeners tuning in for the first time who would not know. But I had 3 podcasts prior to doing this podcast. And I have to tell you that all 3 of them miserably failed. So, okay, you're probably saying to yourself, then why do you think this one's not going to fail? Okay, that's what I want to talk about. My very first podcast was called Electro Lounge, and that show got shelved after 1 episode because of legal issues and money. It all came down to money, and we were unable to put that podcast together. And it was in my best interest to basically shelf the project. I later decided to do the Kevin Peterson Show, my second podcast. Honestly, I started off doing really well with that podcast. I had listeners in, I believe it was 6, maybe 7 countries at one point. And I was really proud of myself for being as widely listened to as I had been. Because I really never thought that podcast would ever leave the area that I live in. I thought maybe everybody, friends, family of my businesses would listen for just to get updates, just to know what's going on. And that's really what I had put it together for. But I ended up with listeners in 6 or 7 countries. So I was very proud of that. But I did not structure and format that podcast the way I should have. I never said that I was a podcaster. I never said that I was a broadcaster. I admitted that early on, that I had very limited knowledge of podcasting and broadcasting, and that, please bear with me that I'm going to figure this out. Well, I didn't figure it out. And like I said, the show ended up miserably failing in the second season, and we took the show off the air. Well, I have a really difficult time accepting failure. I have worked in the music industry for 45 years, 46 years, and I have held many, many positions in this industry. I love this industry. I will probably live the rest of my life working in this industry. And it's what I love to do. So failure was not an option for me. And being arrogant, my ego allowed me to jump right back into podcasting after, oh my gosh, after about 8 months. And I said I was going to take 8 months to a year off. I was going to finish up some projects, and then I was going to get back into podcasting. Well, and I did just that. But I got back into podcasting without learning anything new or different. So I got back into it. I did a podcast called the Kevin Peterson Band podcast, which was supposed to have been a platform for just information about my band, my record release, and possibly a place to put up some live recordings for people to listen to that would not normally be available to the public. Well, that podcast failed even worse than the first and the second. So you might be asking yourself, why are you doing this podcast? Why are you getting back into podcasting again? I mean, if you've got 3 that have failed you, why would you get back into the business, right? Why would you do this again? Well, there's a lot of reasons why I'm doing this. And like I said, failure was not an option. I said that if nothing else, I am going to take the time, learn how to do a podcast properly. I'm going to study, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to put a podcast together that people want to hear. A podcast that people want to listen to. So that is exactly what I am doing with Sound City Workshop. Sound City Workshop, the podcast, is not going to be all over the place as far as I'm going to be bringing you information regarding Manila Dawn Records, the Manila Dawn Studios, Electric Llama Films, and Electric Llama Films has now teamed up with Manila Dawn Records to create Manila Dawn Films. So now there's 2 film production companies. But we're not going to be all over the place talking about my multiple business endeavors. Each episode of the Sound City Workshop podcast is going to be devoted to one topic. We're not going to talk about multiple studios, multiple projects. Each episode is going to be dedicated to one topic. We are going to have interviews with local artists. We're going to have in-house performances. And I'm not promising that I'm going to be bringing this stuff to you weekly. I'm a musician, producer. I do film. I write scripts. I am not going to be doing the average run-of-the-mill podcast. My show is going to be very unorthodox. I'm going to bring you new content, new episodes as I have them. You may get an episode this week. You may get an episode next week. And then it may be a month or even 2 months before you get another one. Now, I know people will lose interest. People can lose interest. But I'm letting everybody know right up front, that's how this podcast is going to be. I am going to do my very best to take the knowledge that I have learned recently about podcasting, and I'm going to apply it to this podcast. And we are going to bring you some amazing content this coming year. We are now entering into December of 2022. I just recently retired from a career working for the state of California for 33 years. And I said to myself, I've got all this free time now. I have all this free time. What am I going to do? Well, I'm going to continue to learn the business of podcasting. I am going to continue to gather and bring you incredible content. Even though it may not be on a weekly basis, it may not be bi-weekly or bi-monthly or whatever. I'm going to bring you content as I have it, and I'm going to bring you excellent content. So I hope and I pray that this podcast will do well. And I'm asking the listeners to please bear with me until I really get this going, because I am going to bring some excellent content in the near future to this podcast. And see, that was probably one of my biggest mistakes in previous podcast, was I would make that statement and say, I'm going to bring you some excellent content next week, or I'm going to bring you some excellent content tomorrow. Well, tomorrow never came. So I'm not promising when the content is going to be uploaded. I'm just telling you that I'm going to be bringing some awesome content to this podcast. Okay, so enough. Let's talk about Sound City Workshop. Sound City Workshop is going to be a podcast that is mainly focused on do-it-yourself projects. Whether you're an audiophile, maybe you're entry level, maybe you've been collecting high-end audio and listening to high-end audio all of your life in your, midlife. Whether you're a musician, we're going to bring you projects, do-it-yourself projects. Mainly, we're talking do-it-yourself monitors, amplifiers, things of that nature. Whether it be a tube amp for your home audio system, maybe it's a tube amp for your guitar, maybe it's a phono preamp project. Those are the kind of projects we're going to bring. We're also going to discuss occasionally my other companies. But again, each episode is going to be dedicated to one particular topic. We're not going to just talk about all these different things in one podcast. One of the things that I do want to mention, though, in this episode is I have currently put a YouTube channel together for Manila Dawn Records. On this channel, we are going to be spotlighting some short films that myself and my partner have put together. They're going to be nature films and just some really amazing content. And at some point, I'm going to be putting up a link to the YouTube channel. And I ask everybody to please subscribe and please support me. It really means so much, to me that you would do that. But that's really, folks, what this podcast is really going to be about. It's going to be about do-it-yourself projects. I have been involved in design and building of audio products for some years now. I really don't talk about it. It's something that I've done for friends. I've built recording studio processors from kits from scratch. I've built monitor systems. I built studio monitors really early on in my life because in those days you didn't have access to the high quality monitors that a major record company would use. You had to just do with what was available. So it was it came out of necessity, I guess, to get into building my own products. But I really want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. I appreciate you listening. I really cannot tell you when the next episode will go up. I don't want to get into the pitfalls that brought down my other podcast. I can tell you that I am much more knowledgeable and I have learned so much about podcasting and how to do this correctly. And I am continuing to learn. And I'm going to do my very best to make this podcast work. I'm hoping that people are going to be excited about this and they're going to come back and listen. That's really all I got for you tonight. And again, I appreciate you tuning in. I appreciate you listening. And we'll be back right after the first of the year with some new content for you. Like I said, I'm not going to promise any particular date, but we will be back. Again, I appreciate you tuning in. We're going to have some great do-it-yourself projects for you. One of the first ones that I'm going to talk about in an upcoming episode is a Fostex speaker kit. Do it yourself. It can be done in an afternoon, and you can be up and listening within a few hours, and it's just really an amazing speaker system, especially if it's your first time building. So we'll have that in an upcoming episode. Thank you again. I appreciate it. Have a wonderful day. Peace. We'll see you soon. I'm Kevin Peterson, and you're listening to the Sound City Workshop Podcast. Welcome back to another episode of the Sound City Workshop Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Peterson. Welcome back, everybody. Wow, can you believe it? I just cannot believe that we are moving forward into January of 2023. It just doesn't seem possible. Where does the time go, you know? And it seems as you get older, the time goes by even faster. And, or at least for me, it seems like the time goes by so much faster. But anyways, I wanted to just get right into tonight's episode. And I had stated that we were going to come back with some new episodes in January, and that we were going to discuss a do-it-yourself speaker build by Fostex. Actually, there was two speaker kits by Fostex that I wanted to build and review on the show for anybody looking for some just entry-level but high-end speakers for either your office, a dorm, a small apartment. I mean, these are just great little full-range speakers that you can pick up at a reasonable price, build them yourself. Anybody can build these as long as you just have the basic tools. You don't need any sophisticated tools. You just need a few hand tools, and you can build these in a matter of a couple hours and be up and running and have excellent results. The first kit that I wanted to discuss was the Fostex P1000E. Excuse me. The P1000E comes in at about $215, and it's a great little entry-level speaker. But if it was me, I would opt for the upgrade, and I would go with the P1000. The P1000 is a horn-loaded cabinet, so your results are 100% better. I particularly like this kit. It comes in at about $291. Still not a bad deal. And like I said, the average person can build this kit in a matter of a couple hours, be up and running, and get excellent results. The problem that I have with reviewing those today is that my Fostex distributor here in the U.S. has informed me that the P1000Es are currently out of stock. And the P1000 horn-loaded model is on back order. It's also out of stock. And I guess the new stock coming in is going to have an updated driver. They're not going to use the same 4-inch full-range driver that was used in past kits. So my distributor didn't really go into detail on what the improvements were or what they had changed in the new driver. He just had mentioned that the new kits for January will have a different driver, an improved, updated driver. So I am definitely interested in building this kit on the show, reviewing it, and just really kind of seeing how either one of these speaker kits perform in my environment. And that way I can give you an honest review of what I really think of these and whether I would recommend, you building them, you buying a kit. Really, I don't think that there's going to be any negative review. They're both fantastic speakers. I've personally heard the P1000s, the horn-loaded model, and they're great. I love them. But I didn't hear them in my environment. I heard them in an actual recording studio. So, we're talking about special sound treatments and sort of stuff and, extremely high-end amplifiers. What I would suggest that somebody does with these is either runs them with a tube amp or possibly even a hybrid tube amp where your preamp stage may be tubes and your amplifier stage is solid state. I personally want to try running a pair of these with a tube amp and seeing what kind of results I can get from them. But anyways, I'm not going to be able to do that tonight. So I had to change up what I really wanted to do on tonight's show. And what I wanted to bring to the table tonight is I want to talk about young musicians, people that are getting into the music business and just starting out. I personally have been in this business almost 47 years. I have been fortunate enough to, over my years, acquire some very high-end gear. Now, at the time that I was acquiring this gear, it wasn't labeled as vintage. This stuff is now vintage, and most of it is worth a fortune. So I've got some really nice high-end gear in my studio. My PA system is all really high-end gear. And the only part of my PA system that I would say is not high-end is my rental gear, because I do rentals. I do sound system rentals. And, of course, I don't want to put my best stuff out there for people to just abuse it and then send it back to me all beat up. So, I've got a little of everything in my system. But what I want to talk about is I want to talk about young artists, young musicians getting into the business and not really having the money to buy the best of the best. And we've all been there. We've all been in that position where we just can't afford to get the top of the line mixing board or microphone or, whatever, recorder or whatever it is that you're looking to purchase. So tonight, I want to review an off-brand name that has been on my radar for some time now. A couple years ago, keep in mind, we're entering 2023. So 2, maybe 3 years ago, I was turned on to the name Monoprice. Now, some of you may have heard of Monoprice, others may not. But from what I've gathered, they're a company down in Southern California who is strictly an online seller, and they source off-brand equipment out of China, put their name on it, and sell it. Usually, I'm not one to go out and buy off-brand products just because I am in a position to where I can afford to buy the higher-end stuff. But I talked to somebody a couple months back. They had bought a couple items from Monoprice, and they told me this stuff was actually pretty decent. And I said, well, I'm skeptical. First of all, you don't know who's building the product. Second of all, China has a reputation for not always building the highest quality materials. And I just don't know anything about Monoprice other than they're a California company that sells stuff online. So anyways, on tonight's show, I want to review a Monoprice product. I did it. I finally took that jump into the frying pan and said, hey, I'm going to do this. Because for a very long time, I said, no, I'm not going to waste my money on this inferior product. So instead of being closed-minded, I decided maybe it was time to give these guys a chance and see what the hype is all about. Is it any good or is it just crap? Well, we're going to find out. Tonight on the Sound City Workshop, we are going to review a dual-channel wireless microphone system from Monoprice. I purchased the item on Amazon from the Monoprice store. I paid approximately $99. I know. And I know what you're thinking. For $99, you're not going to get 2 microphones and a wireless receiver that's worth a damn, right? Okay. Well, I was skeptical too. But I purchased it. It came in the mail. I have not unboxed it yet. I'm going to unbox it, and I am going to test it and review it on tonight's show. And I'm going to give you my honest opinion on whether I think this would be a good choice for a young musician or artist to purchase for their PA system or possibly their church or any other event that they would need a wireless microphone system that's versatile. According to the specifications, this thing has 200 UHF channels to choose from. So as far as interference, there should be none. But we're going to unbox this thing here in a few minutes, and I'll let you know what I honestly think about it and whether I think it's a good deal coming in at $100. So we'll be right back after this quick break. And welcome back to the podcast. Hey, I want to apologize, everybody. I don't normally take a break in the middle of a podcast recording. I I had an associate show up here at the studio. He did not realize that I was recording a podcast today. He's actually still here in the studio. He's in the other room listening through the playback monitors. And I'm glad he showed up because now I'm actually going to offer you, the listener, a double review today. I was going to just review the Stage Right by Monoprice wireless microphone system, dual wireless microphone system. But my associate showed up and brought me a gift. I asked why, and he said, well, I bought myself one. I thought I'd get you one too. I thought, what a nice guy, right? He brought me a Zoom ZDM1. That's a ZDM1, and it is a professional vocal microphone for podcasting, broadcasting, and voiceovers. Now, I had mentioned to him a few months back that I really wasn't happy with the microphone that I was using for podcasting. And I guess he listened. So he had bought himself one of these, and he bought me one. And I'm going to go ahead and review this because I actually, while I was on break, I switched over the microphones. And the first part of this podcast was recorded with my 1970s Electro Voice microphone, which was made in the U.S. I think I bought it new old stock probably in the early 80s, and I think I paid about $300 for it then. That was $300 in the 1980s. I mean, that would be like, what, $900 now? It's insane with the inflation. But anyways, I switched it out, and I'm using this Zoom ZDM1 microphone to record the second part of the show. When I picked up the box, I was like, wow, this thing's heavy. It must be pretty well packed. I didn't assume the microphone weighed that much. So I took it out of the box. I put it on my stand, my desk stand, and got it all hooked up. And that's what I'm using right now to record the second part of the show. And I had asked my friend, I said, you know, if you don't mind me asking, what did this thing cost? He says, I ordered it from Amazon. It was shipped for free, and the microphone was about $73. And I said, $73? You got to be kidding me. This thing is heavy. It's got a nice, heavy metal housing. It has a nice mount that threads onto the microphone and then onto your mic stand. It came with a nice, thick filter, foam filter, and I can't believe it. I cannot believe how good this thing sounds. I mean, I don't know exactly what you're hearing, but I know what I'm hearing in my headphones. And I like the way this sounds considerably better than my Electro Voice did. So I'm pretty stoked about this. And I wasn't planning on doing 2 gear reviews today, but I'm looking at the box, and it says that Zoom designed this in Japan, and it was assembled in China. And I'm not real big on Chinese-made stuff. I never have been. Their build quality is just, I never thought was anywhere near a match for what we could build in the U.S. I'm really surprised. This thing, it's heavy. It sounds amazing. Like I said, what I'm hearing in my headphones right now is, this is amazing. This thing sounds great. Anyways, it's the Zoom ZDM1 dynamic microphone. It says that it's a professional vocal microphone for studio quality podcasting, broadcasting, and voiceovers. This is a great mic. I'm glad he brought this over. I think I'm going to take this guy to lunch. I mean, this is great, man. This is awesome mic. So thank you. Thank you for that. So anyways, I want to get into the review that I told you I was going to do tonight. And that is the Stage Right by Monoprice dual wireless microphone system. And as I was saying in the first part of the podcast, I was a little skeptical about buying this just because I really did not know much about Monoprice other than they have a office down in Southern California. Well, my first impression when I saw this, I looked at the box and it's just a generic white box with black writing. It looks very generic. I mean, if I saw this sitting on a shelf, I would probably pass it by. But I'm not buying the box. I'm buying what's inside the box, right? So I opened it up and I'm looking at it, and this thing is very well packed. Very, very well packed. It came with an owner's manual. It came with the receiver and 2 antennas. It came with a 1/4-inch cable that you can connect between the receiver and your mixing console to get a mixed signal of the 2 microphones. But don't worry, the receiver also has dual XLR outputs for microphone A and microphone B. Now, looking at the microphones, I mean, I'm looking at these things going, wow, these things look really well built. You know, they have a nice feel to them. They're heavy. They resemble my Shure SM58 wireless mics. And they didn't cost even half of what I paid for my Shure wireless mics. They're sturdy. They look like they would actually take some abuse on the road, because that's what happens to gear when you take it out on the road. The receiver, which I thought probably for $100 would be in a plastic housing, a heavy duty plastic housing. The housing is all metal. The display on the front of this thing is extremely bright. There's no reason why you could not read the display in a dark room. So I'm really impressed. The other thing about the Monoprice brand that I was impressed with, that I did not know, and I had said that before, that all I really knew about this company was they were based out of Southern California. Well, I was correct in assuming that the product was made in China. It says so right on the box, but it also says designed in Berlin, Germany. So, and it has an address in Germany, in Berlin, for Monoprice. So I'm confused. I don't know if Monoprice is a German company with just an American headquarters here. Are they headquartered? Is their headquarters here in the U.S. and they just have an office in Germany? I mean, I really don't know. Like I said before, I don't really know much about Monoprice. But I've got to tell you, I'm really impressed. The quality And the build quality and the sound quality of this wireless mic system is really good. If you are a professional sound engineer who's been in the business for any length of time, you're going to know the difference between this microphone and a Shure SM58, which is pretty much the industry standard. But if you're just the average person in the audience that just came to see a band, you really don't know anything about PA equipment, you're not going to know the difference. So if you're a young artist, a young band, and you're looking to get some equipment that's not going to break the bank, I absolutely 100% recommend the Stage Right microphone system by Monoprice. It is a dual handheld microphone system. The housing of the microphones are made of metal. The housing of the receiver is made of metal. The display panel on this thing is very bright. Like I said, there should be no reason why you can't read this on a dark stage or a dark room sitting next to your mixing console. So I recommend it. I mean, it sounds good. The only thing I haven't really tested with this wireless mic system is I have not tested the distance. I believe on the Monoprice website, it states that this wireless microphone system is good for up to 260 feet. On the box that the microphones came in, it says it's good for up to 300 feet. So I'm a little confused there, but, we'll see. We'll see in the coming weeks. I will test this system, and I will get back to you in a podcast sometime down the road, and I will let you know what I really thought of these. But my first impression of the Monoprice wireless mic system is it's decent. It's a good system, and the price is right. I mean, you can't beat it for $100. You're just not going to find another wireless microphone system that's going to be built or sound as good as this one. And I've got to say, hands down, I've seen people that have used off-brand stuff like this, and it was just straight up junk. I mean, it was cheap. If you dropped it, you broke it. This is actually very well built. I'm very surprised. I'm pleasantly surprised for $100. This is what I got. I really am. So I definitely recommend this mic system. And save a few bucks. Go buy this, and I think you'll enjoy it. I don't think you'll have any trouble with it. So far, it looks like it's going to be worth the $100 I spent on it. And, like I said, I will definitely let you know down the road what I really think of this. But getting back to the Zoom product, this ZDM1 that I'm using right now to finish up this podcast, I can't believe this thing. This thing is really good, man. I mean, what I'm hearing in my headphones is so much cleaner and so much more like what I would expect from a broadcast microphone. Now, I'm not saying that the Electro Voice that I was using was designed specifically for voiceovers or for broadcasting, but it did not sound as good as this Chinese-made mic that was $70. This thing's unreal. So maybe this is a lesson, and maybe I should be a little more open-minded to modern technology and Chinese manufacturing, because really, if everything that came out of China was as good as this Zoom mic that I'm now using, I would probably be a little bit more open to trying new stuff. So that's really all I have for you in this episode. I appreciate everybody tuning in and listening. Again, I think this StageRight wireless microphone system by Monoprice is going to be a beneficial purchase for me. And being that I have the Shure SM58 wireless system, I will more than likely continue to keep the SM58 wireless system in my rig. And the StageRight wireless system, I think I'm going to put into circulation with my rental system. And we'll see how it goes. But I really don't foresee any problems unless somebody just deliberately takes one of these microphones and decides to use it as a hammer. Other than that, I mean, I think they're going to be pretty decent. So anyways, I appreciate you tuning in and listening to another episode of the Sound City Workshop. Welcome to a new year. Like I said, I can't believe it. I cannot believe we're entering into January of 2023. I just don't get where the time goes. It goes by so fast anymore. But anyways, I'm not going to keep you any longer. You have a wonderful day. Be good to yourself. Be good to somebody else. I'm Kevin Peterson. You're listening to the Sound City Workshop. Peace. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Peterson. And tonight, before we really get too into the episode tonight, I wanted to update my listeners on the StageRight by Monoprice wireless microphone system that I reviewed in the last episode. And at the time that we completed the last episode, I had done most of the testing on this microphone, but there were a few things that I didn't have time to do that I said I was going to update the listeners later. So I'm going to update you right now, and I'm going to give you my final expectations and my thoughts on this budget-friendly wireless microphone system. And I had said in the last review that, or in the last episode, I had said that I recommended it, that it was very well built, that it seemed to function fine, it sounded great. I was comparing this to my Shure SM58 wireless system. And of course, for the price, I knew it wasn't going to sound quite as good as my SM58s because, you know, you get what you pay for. And that's why I always said originally I was a little skeptical of this microphone. Well, the only issue that I had with this microphone is the packaging that the StageRight microphones came in. It said directly on the box that they were the receiver and the microphone were good and could communicate with each other up to 300 feet, and you had the option of 200 frequencies that you could use to kind of weed out interference. Well, on the Monoprice website, they say something totally different, and they say that the microphones are only usable up to 260 feet. So I really wanted to see what these microphones could do and update my listeners. And I would say if you're going to use this microphone system, I would try to stay within a safe zone of 250 feet to 260 feet. I think that is probably a safe area. Like I said, the box said that it was good up to 300 feet. The only issue I had at 300 feet was momentarily I had a dropout, and then it came right back. Signal came right back on, and it was just a one-time thing. I tried this multiple times at 300 feet, and I only had the dropout the one time. So I really wouldn't want to be on stage in front of a crowd and have that happen. Nobody would, right? So I would say if you keep it within a couple hundred feet, 250 feet, 260 feet, you should be fine. I totally recommend this microphone system for the price. I'm actually considering buying another one, but instead of with the handheld mics, I'm going to get the clip-on mics that I can clip onto my shirt and that I can use it when I do video footage, interviews, whatever I'm doing. So, I was impressed with it for what I paid for it. And just in case you don't remember, I paid right around $100 for this system, just a fraction of what I paid for my Shure SM58 wireless system. So, yes, I do recommend this system. I'm happy with it. Okay, there's your update. So, I want to get into tonight's episode, and I'm really kind of excited about this. This was something I wanted to just go ahead and bring up on the show, kind of let people know where I'm at, what's going on, and just kind of get some information out there. So, any of my listeners that have been with me for any length of time, who used to, maybe listen to my other podcast, they know that I've been involved in the music industry for almost 47 years. Actually, I believe it has been 47 years. It's a long time. It's been a long journey. And I've held many, many, many positions in this industry. I have worked almost every position you can imagine in this industry. And one of the things that I have done in the background for many, many, many years now is I have created artwork. And, it was never intentionally something that I did so that people would buy it or use it. I mean, I did it because it was just something I did in my pastime, and I enjoyed doing it. And I was really involved with the Renaissance period. I still am. I still love the Renaissance period. I love medieval Renaissance music. I like classical music. But, you know, that whole Renaissance period really kind of inspired me to do what is called fantasy art. So I started creating fantasy art, and other types of art. So I started doing this just out of, I guess, boredom. You know, I wanted something to occupy my time, and I realized that I was pretty good at it. But I think, like most artists, I felt it was good, but I never felt it was good enough for the public. And I kind of just have kept this from my family. I've kept it from my friends. And the other day, I had somebody who I just recently met who is involved in distributing artwork. And they looked at my work. They asked if they could, and I said, sure. I just happened to have it out. They looked through it, and they said, did you create this? And I said, yes. I said, I actually own the copyrights to all this material. And they said, have you ever used it commercially? And I said, no, I've never done anything like that. It's been for my own enjoyment. And they said, this is really good. You need to start promoting this and start generating some income from it. And I said, well, you know, I don't know. I don't know that that's something I want to do. And I started thinking about it, and I thought, you know, why not? Why not? So I've actually had a couple phone calls already, and I've had people say, hey, you know, I would like to use this piece of artwork for a concert poster. And I said, you got to be kidding me. And they said, no, so-and-so had said that they had seen your work and that it was good. And, I trust this person. And they said, so, you know, we're interested in maybe seeing this work and possibly some other work you've done. So I decided that what I want to do is my band, the Kevin Peterson Band, has got a CD release party coming up in May. Now, when we have that CD release party, I have decided that that'll give me plenty of time. I'm going to gather some of my artwork, put it together, and I'm going to bring it to the CD release party and display it and hopefully, you know, sell some of it. And, you know, and some of the other artwork, hopefully maybe I'll get some hits on, you know, using it commercially, you know, for concert posters or, you know, album covers, who knows. But this is something that I've done in the background while I've worked in the music industry. And it was just, you know, something, like I said, I did to pass time. But now it seems as if this may turn into something much bigger than that. So I'm really kind of excited about that. And so I'm really kind of stoked about it. And I just really never felt my artwork would ever really go anywhere. I just thought it was something that I did for fun, you know. Of course, I'm not stupid. You know, I did copyright everything, you know, just so, you know, in case somebody did like it, they weren't going to steal it from me. So, yeah, I mean, I'm really just kind of excited about this, and you know, I'm just feeling a little upbeat because, you know, I've gotten that reassurance that this artwork is actually pretty good. So yeah, so you know, I can't wait to see what happens. But anyways, like I said, my band, the Kevin Peterson Band. We do have a CD release party coming up, in May. It is May 13th. That is a Saturday. And we're going to be introducing the first single from the album. And hopefully we're going to have the album itself available at that time, or at least within a few days, so that it is, going to be available on Spotify and Apple Music and, pretty much everywhere in the world that you would go to find your music for streaming or downloading. So, that's pretty much it. I just wanted to kind of put that out there. I had mentioned that I was going to talk about the CD release party in an upcoming episode. And so I figured now would be a good time to do that and just kind of put it out there and let everybody know that the CD release party is, coming up in May. I know that's still a ways off. We are expecting to sell, for this particular event, we're expecting to sell somewhere around 300 to 400 tickets. And that was really about, what we figured our limit would be for this. And so VIP tickets are currently available. The general admission tickets are going to be available in about a week. So if anybody's interested in attending, shoot me an email. You can find the email on the Buzzsprout webpage. And, just let me know, and, we can get you hooked up with a ticket. But, yeah, I didn't have a whole lot else for you tonight. Other than that, I guess I could actually give you an update on the Zoom ZDM1 dynamic microphone. I also reviewed that in the last episode, and I had recorded half of the last episode using the Electro-Voice, my Electro-Voice microphone from the 70s. This microphone cost a fortune. And then halfway through the episode, I switched over to this Zoom ZDM1, and I ended up reviewing it too. And this is an awesome mic. I am using it to record tonight's show. And man, I love this thing. And this mic was about $70 on Amazon. Free shipping if you got Prime. So I can't beat it. It sounds so much more warm and natural than my vintage Electro-Voice. I was totally blown away. I couldn't believe it. So that's another microphone if you're interested in podcasting or you're doing voiceovers or any kind of broadcasting. It's a Zoom ZDM1 dynamic microphone, and it kind of resembles the Shure SM7. I think that's the model number, SM7. I used to have one of these years ago. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe they were Shure SM7s, and it's just a dynamic broadcasting mic. I also at one time had an Electro-Voice, I think it was an RE20. It was a pretty large dynamic mic that we used for broadcasting, but I was never really involved in the broadcasting stuff back then. I just remember seeing them, and I remember the model number. But this Zoom modern Chinese made, and I say Chinese made in a good way. I'm becoming more open to checking out Chinese made stuff. In the past, I was kind of really just not too into it. Didn't really want to bother with it because I just felt that it was inferior. But I got to tell you, man, this mic for $70, I can't believe it sounds as good as it does. And it's just an amazing mic. So there's my review of the Zoom ZDM1. But getting back to the CD release party, It's going to be held in Visalia, California, and I believe it's going to be held at the Marriott Hotel. And I haven't got confirmation of that yet, but I think that's where it's going to be. It's going to be in the conference room, and we're going to be able to, anybody would be able to come in, enjoy the show, and then, either go to the bar or have dinner. And, which we're not going to cover the dinner or the drinks. That's completely on you. But, I have been wanting to review and build the Fostex do-it-yourself monitor kit on the show. And that was really kind of what I was hoping to be able to do tonight. And obviously that's not going to happen because the kits are still unavailable. And I'm still waiting for them to come in. So once they come in, I'm going to review those monitors and some other do-it-yourself projects on the show. And I guess we'll just go from there. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of just end tonight's show right now. Because like I said, I really don't have anything else for you. I was just so excited about somebody liking my artwork, and and not just anybody. This is somebody who deals in art. This is somebody who deals in quality art. So coming from them that this is good work, it really lifted my spirits, and I'm really feeling pretty good about this. So I kind of wanted to just put that out there tonight. And I was a little skeptical of doing the show tonight because I really didn't have anything else solid, for you other than, finishing up my review of the Stage Right microphone system and talking about the CD release and mentioning that I'm going to have my artwork there for display and for purchase. So, I don't want to fall back into the pitfalls that caused my other shows to lose interest. And that's really a big thing for me. I want to see this podcast succeed and do well. And I think I had mentioned it before. I can't really remember. My memory's not as good as it used to be. But I believe at one point I had listeners in 7 countries, and I was really happy. I was very impressed. I just never thought this little podcast would ever turn into anything so big. And again, I've never really been involved in broadcasting or podcasting, and this is all still fairly new to me within the last 2 or 3 years. And of course, I am learning how to do things differently and to make the show more enjoyable for people. So, hang in there. Bear with me, and I promise that we will have some really, really good content coming up very, very soon. I just spoke with a good friend of mine, Raymond Pitts of the Jazz Poets, and I had talked about him a couple times on one of my other podcasts, and he is going to be available probably sometime around April of this year. And the guy's just like crazy busy right now, but he's going to be available sometime around April. We're going to have him on the show. We're going to play some music, and we're going to do an interview with him and talk to him about how he got into the business and that sort of thing. So we can look forward to, that episode. But again, like I said, it'll probably be April or so before we get that show out there and available. So anyways, I'm going to work my magic, and I'm going to try to get this Fostex kit in here. And I want to get the Fostex kit built and review it because I said I was going to do that. So I'm going to focus on that for right now. I'm going to get that done. In the meantime, mark your calendars, May 13th of this year, 23. May 13th is a Saturday, Visalia, California. We're going to have the CD release party for the Kevin Peterson Band and the viewing of my artwork. And like I said, some of the artwork will be available for purchase. And I'm not going to price gouge anybody. I'm going to be really fair as far as what I'm selling this stuff for because, who am I? I'm a recording engineer / musician, I'm not really, I don't consider myself an artist. So, or a painter or whatever you want to call me. So that's really it, folks. I hope I haven't bored you too much. It's been great being able to do this again. I love getting in front of the microphone. I love talking to people. I hope you have found some of this information useful and interesting. And we will be back soon with a solid episode for you of some incredible content. You have a wonderful day, and we'll see you soon. I'm Kevin Peterson, and you're listening to the Sound City Workshop podcast.